The most effective form of evangelism, obviously, is one-on-one. That direct person who knows you, who sees your walk, and says, okay, God is real to this person. Why isn't he real to me? And they begin seeking. But how do you get to that one-on-one relationship with a person? Particularly when there's 4 million people here, there's only about 7,000 evangelicals in the whole country. How do you find that person who is seeking? How do you find that person's open? And so you need a big net. And then basically the radio is one of our big nets for evangelism.
Ispravo ili pogrešno, dobro ili zlo. Nema neutralnog teritorija. Bijelo ili crno.
It has a reach for the majority of Zagreb, which is a city of 1 million people. And during our 2 15-minute time slots, there's about 40,000 people listening, which blew our minds. You know, obviously, that's the main purpose, is broad seed sowing. About a year into the broadcasting, a guy started visiting, and he just mentioned casually, yeah, I've been listening to the radio for about a year before I decided to come to the Sunday evening service. And he said, listen, I have an old property that I'm not using. Why don't you guys come over during the week and have a Bible study? So now that has become the second church plant. The Southern Baptists have had a huge role in what has been an amazing spiritual change. And to keep that going, that we would see that this new lost continent would be found through the La Union offering.
There's an impact I know, but then I think there's an enormous impact that I'll never know until we're in heaven and see.
I believe that what we're seeing now is the first fruits. But the one thing that keeps me here is this idea that I'm going to miss out on the most amazing thing that could possibly happen. And to be able to watch what God does and to begin to see the faces of the people coming in and their stories of how their lives have changed and how they've been brought out of such of a mess and into life. That's what I hopefully and pray for. 30, 40, 50 years, whatever, an entire life would be worth it.
his name is called Emmanuel. God with us, revealed in us, his name is called Emmanuel. Emmanuel, Emmanuel, his name is called Emmanuel. God with us, revealed in us, his name is called Emmanuel. The first Noel, the angel did say, was too certain for shepherds in fields as they lay. In fields where they lay keeping their sheep on a cold winter's night that was so deep. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. For all to see, there was a star shining in the east beyond them far. And to the earth it gave great light, and so it continued both day and night. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. And by the light of that same star, the wise men came beyond and far to seek for a king. It was their intent, and follow the star wherever it went.
story. God is using the census as a way to move Joseph and Mary to the place where Jesus is to be born. God is using the census in a way to move Mary and Joseph to where Jesus would be born. You see, all this is part of God's plan. All this has and always been part of God's plan. If you want to read some of your footnotes, usually it'll reference a prophecy of something that was supposed to happen. And now we see it actually happen. I remember when my wife was pregnant and when she had her son, and during the last few months, which was in June and July, were the last few months. I don't know if you know, but it gets hot during the summer, right? And fortunately for us, we were living in Orange County at the time, so it was a little bit cooler, but it was still hot. And I just remember how uncomfortable she was carrying a baby who was about to be born during the summer months. It was uncomfortable. Joseph and Mary walking, and possibly, the kind of stories we have is like maybe they had a donkey and maybe she was put on the donkey. But can you imagine, ladies, I don't know, but for those of you who have been pregnant, can you imagine being pregnant and on a donkey for a 3-day trip? Uphill, both ways. It was an uncomfortable experience. But they made the trip according to God's plan. It didn't matter. Having a baby is never easy. That's why a man can't do it. But God's journey sometimes takes us in unexpected ways to unexpected places. Have you ever had God do something unexpected in your life? Have you ever had God throw you what you think is a curveball? But God sometimes uses those ways to grow your character. He uses the unexpected to create in you the character of Jesus in you. Joseph and Mary had to have faith in God to know that this is what they needed to do. And Joseph and Mary arrived, and something again unexpected happened to them. Let's read the last two verses, verses 6 through 7. It says, "And while they were there, the time came for her to give birth. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn." If you've ever been in the presence of a woman who's given birth, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, and a lot of surgery type equipment around. There is a lot going on, and I may have shared the story when my son was born, he had turned around, which meant originally we were going to have natural childbirth, but now they were have to do C-section. And he turned around at the last minute, and my wife never had a C-section. And so I remember they said, "Hey, we got to do a C-section. It's already his date. We're going to go ahead and deliver the baby now." They left me in the room. They took Marie off, and I'm sitting there waiting. I kind of know what to expect because I did go to the Lamaze class, but this was a C-section, so it was going to be all different. So I wasted a lot of money on that class. But then they finally got me. They said, "She's ready. She's asking for you." They forgot about me. And so they gave me the surgery smock, or whatever you call it, and I put it on backwards, of course, because it was going so fast. But a lot of things were happening. And when I finally got there, they quickly pulled out the baby. And then you heard the cry. And then you knew all was kind of well. And they whisked them up, took a quick Polaroid picture. Okay, I think everybody here knows what a Polaroid picture is, right? Okay, if you don't, please Google it. Okay? Took a quick Polaroid picture. They had to whisk Marie away, and I had to go with the baby, and all was well. But in a surgery area, it's all very clean. And I think we kind of missed that in this story. There's no room for them in the end. That just meant there was no rooms available. It's not a hotel. did Joseph forget to make a reservation? Or, did he forget to go on hotels.com and do that? No. There just wasn't any room. And I'm sure they didn't expect it. But there was a place for them to be. And it was not in an ideal place. It was a place where all the farm animals came. And more than likely, it was a cave. And when he was born, it says they put him in a manger. Yeah. You know what that is? It's a feeding trough for animals. Unsanitary. Yet that's how God's Son came. In ways we would not expect. There were no fireworks. And the Bible tells us that he was wrapped in swaddling cloths. These are just strips of linen that were used to wrap up the baby to, kind of keep their arms, together and their legs together. And I remember the first time being a parent of a newborn, I remember trying to wrap my son up, and like a minute later, everything comes off. And I remember my mother-in-law came and she wrapped him up. I mean, he was wrapped up like a burrito, He was so wrapped up, and he never got out, and he was very comfortable, and he was very quiet. Grandmas, you have that special touch. But he was taken care of. He was taken care of. Mary watched over him. But he came in unexpected ways, in an unexpected place. And when you think about it, the hand of God is in all this. The hand of God has always been through all of this. God works through people. He works through events. He works through circumstances to achieve his purpose. God works through events. God works through people. God works through circumstances to achieve his purpose. And maybe for us, we need to see where God is working in the midst of all this stuff. And we maybe have our complaints about the governor, president, whatever. But God uses people. God uses circumstances. And he uses events